Hi everyone, got another knife review for you. What you're looking at here is the Spyderco Delica 4. If I had someone walk up to me and said that they wanted to try out Spyderco knives and they asked me which one I'd recommend, I would probably recommend the Delica 4. This is the flagship of the Spyderco line and it has all of the great features that you would expect in a Spyderco knife. I recently got this knife from a very nice gentleman. I just bought it off of him used, and as you can see there's just a little bit of clip wear, but otherwise the knife is in great condition. So I'm just going to talk about some of my experiences and maybe include a little bit of the history, and whatever information I'm missing in the video I'll just put in the details section on the right. So anyways, let's get started. The Delica 4 feels really good in hand. It's an FRN handled Spyderco. If you look here, it has this really great texturing. They call it bidirectional texturing or volcano grip, and as you can see it moves in concentric circles from the logo. And while I'm mentioning the logo, as you look here, if you look at the pocket clip rests directly over the logo, which I think is great. It's a smart design idea, just because when you have this clipped inside of your pocket, the logo is smooth, and when it's pressed up against the clip it's not going to wear on your pants pocket. I wish more companies would take a hint from doing that. Some other knives I've seen, the clip rests on the texturing, and the texturing just abrades over the cloth of your pants over time. The pocket clip itself is really great. I like the rounded curves of it. Does retention really well, but not so much so that it's hard for me to clip it onto my pants. And at the same time, if you look here, it's held in by 3 torx screws, and it's adjustable, so you can carry it as tip up or tip down with left or right-handed carry. So it's great to have that option. So lanyard hole right here, which I never use, but some people like that option, and it goes right through the clip itself. Would have liked it to have been mounted a little bit higher though, just so that more of the knife is riding deeper in your pocket, but as it is, it's fine. It is a torx screw pivot screw, so that if this feels a little bit loose, you can tighten it as you want. Even used, I don't feel any play up or down on this knife. There's a little bit of side-to-side wiggle on the knife, but I hear that's part and parcel for getting a Delica or an Endura knife. It's just part of the design. However, that little bit of movement isn't going to affect the usefulness of, or the effectiveness of a knife. Speaking of the Endura, these are just, the Endura and the Delica are just bigger brother, little brother knives. In fact, whatever change you see to one model of knife, you're probably going to find in the other line. They're always listed together in the Spyderco catalog. In terms of the jimping, if you look here on the back of the blade, there's this really fine jimping. Now, some companies either leave the jimping off completely, or they put jimping that's so aggressive that it's going to rip up your thumb. Spyderco has really great jimping because it's so fine that it's functional and that it holds your thumb in place, but it doesn't rip up your thumb. And in fact, they extended the jimping onto the FRN. It's hard to tell by this camera, but the jimping actually raises above this metal spine right here, so that it gives you some useful texturing and just holds my thumb really well. In terms of the ergonomics itself, actually when I first saw the Delica, I didn't like it. I thought it was just an ugly looking knife and I passed over it. And then it wasn't until I picked one up and I held it in my hand that I realized what a great design it was. So Spyderco is really well known for designing in the dark, in terms of they look at the usefulness and not the aesthetics. They're knives that are made to be used. Because of this recess right here, my forefinger sits really well. It doesn't feel like it's going to slip up onto the blade from heavy use, and combined with this high thumb ramp and the good jimping right here, my hand really locks in and it feels like I have a lot of control over the blade. The main two designs for Spyderco in terms of their blades are either like this kind of saber grip for the knife, or with the Delica, what they do is they have a 50-50 choil. You'll see something like this on the Dragonfly or the Cali 3. This is a little bit better for if you want finer cuts, because your hand is a little bit closer to the blade, so you can really choke up. But the Delica has a little bit of extra security, and because my hand's resting underneath the handle. And at the same time, it's not that far off from the blade, so I mean I can still get some really good control cuts from this blade. The blade itself is VG10 steel. In fact, because of certain trade restrictions, if you see a knife that has VG10 steel, most likely it's made in Seki City, Japan. I think they're only allowed to make the knives there and not export VG10. I could be wrong on that, but all the knives that I've seen that are made of VG10 are from Seki City. It is a saber ground design, which is basically a flat grind that starts halfway. Instead of starting from the top of the spine and extending down, the knife actually is flat, and then it doesn't grind down onto the edge until about midway. The blade itself is 2.5 millimeters thick. I quite like how it extends all the way, the thickness all the way to the tip. That's the main difference between the Delica, one of the differences between the Delica 4 and the Delica 3. The Delica 3 actually had a very thin tip, so it was better for piercing, but at the same time I think that added tip thickness adds to the strength of it. I really love VG10. It's a really high quality steel. Performs around the same levels as 154 CM or ATS-34. In fact, on test people say VG10 performs just a little bit better, but for the casual user you're not really going to see a big difference. This is a lockback design. If you look here, let's see if I can grab my trusty little headlamp here. Shine inside. You see right here that little silver bar, that is a resistance bar, and basically how a lockback design works is you have this locking bar that rotates on this pin, like so, and the resistance bar provides resistance, and the blade itself rotates on this pin. If you look here, shine the light right there, there's a little notch right there. It's actually two notches between the locking bar and the blade, and it locks like this. When I lift the locking bar it releases, and then it can rotate. So as I close it, this lock and this hook actually lock onto each other and snap like so. For me to release the locking mechanism, I just push on the locking bar and the hook lifts up, and then the knife can freely rotate. Some people don't like lockback designs because they say it's harder to open or close compared to like a liner lock or a frame lock. I don't find that's the case with the Delica, just because this section underneath the blade is called the ricasso, and you'll see why this is useful in a second. To close the Delica one-handed, what I do is I just press the locking mechanism with my thumb and flick the knife forward, and as you can see the ricasso catches on my finger, so I don't have to worry about getting cut on the blade. Then I just shift my grip and then can close it. So I don't need two hands to close a lockback design Delica. Just flick it forward, and it's really easy too. In terms of the rotation, deploys very smoothly, and the reason for that is it has phosphor bronze bushings inside to smooth out the deployment and the closing. Just feels really smooth. In fact, this is probably the smoothest deploying knife that I own, or have owned actually. What happens is it flows out smoothly, and then around here it hits a little bit of resistance. I don't know how Spyderco does this, but this is a great little safety feature. Like, it goes smoothly down about halfway, and then there's just a little bit of resistance that you have to push past a little bit when you're closing the knife, and I like that. Just love the ergonomics of this knife. Fit and finish is excellent. And if you'll notice here, there are torx screws all over the knife, so you can take this apart. In fact, there's a gentleman that had a forum that shows how to take this knife apart, so I'll put the link to that if you want to check it out and want to try to take it apart. I do not recommend that, however, because when you take apart the Delica 4, you're going to void the warranty. If you have any problems, I would really recommend sending it back to Spyderco and getting it fixed up. Another difference between the Delica 4 and the Delica 3 is, shine this light right here, you even notice they added stainless steel liners, but Spyderco is good about skeletonizing it just to reduce some of the weight. The Delica 3 is about 2 ounces, the Delica 4 is 2.5 ounces, so it adds some weight. Some people say that it adds some strength and like having the stainless steel liners. Other people prefer not having it and saving the weight and having the Delica 3. If you want the Delica 3, which is really hard to get these days, I would really suggest you check out the Spyderco Salt 1. Basically what that is a Delica 3 with an H1 blade. And in fact, I'm really dying to get my hands on one of those as well, just to try it out. If it's anywhere as ergonomic as the Delica 4, it might give this a run for its money for being my favorite Spyderco. As it is, the steel liners extend throughout the entire length of the handle, so it goes all the way from the butt all the way to the tip. And the cool thing about the liners going all the way is it's on either side of the knife, so that if there's any side-to-side movement, if you have this locked in tight enough, the knife is going to be held stable by the stainless steel liners. Now, I wouldn't recommend trying to do any prying with a knife like this, but it is nice to know that there's that added security for protection for the blade. So it's really up to you if you want to have the stainless steel liners for added strength, or if you'd rather have the lightweight. You might want to check out the Salt one. Hopefully I'll come across one later on and I'll do a review on it. The Delica's been around since 1990. I can't really talk too much about the history right now. I'll just put like a link to some of the write-ups that I found out. But basically, the Delica 1 came out and had originally an FRN handle, like you see here on the Dragonfly. The Delica 2 is a stainless steel handle, and I think they're actually still putting it out now. The Delica 3 I described already, and the Delica 4 came out in, I think, 2006, and it has all the changes that you'll see today. Going through the 2010 Spyderco catalog, you're going to have different options for the Delica 4. You can get it in black, foliage green, G10 handle, stainless steel, and even with a ZDP 189 blade instead of VG10, so there's a ton of options. In terms of bang for your buck, I just recommend the standard FRN VG10 plain edge Delica 4. It's going to be a great EDC. It's an awesome blade, and for your money, you just can't beat it for a Spyderco. So that's my review. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good day.